Welcome, dear sheep, to the sanctuary of the most sophisticated blood-sucking in human history. Here we do not sell technology. We sell a religion called artificial superiority to the masses. You just spent over $1,000 just to get a screen with a stupid notch on top. Apple's arrogance starts with the way they look at your wallet as their personal gold mine. They mock other brands while being the slowest ones actually innovate anything meaningful. Innovation. No, that's the definition of taking away basics and calling it a feature. Look at the scam called environmental protection when they ditched the charger from the box. A blatant lie that even a 3-year-old child can smell the inner rot and greed. They protect the environment by forcing you to buy another plastic box for the charger. What a peak of hypocrisy from those guys in black turtlenecks full of cunning schemes. In the closed boardroom, they high-five as accessory revenue skyrockets like a NASA rocket. Every cable, every adapter is an octopus tentacle slowly wrapping around your fragile neck. They create unique standards just to make sure you cannot share anything with anyone else. You are locked in a luxurious glass cage called the Apple ecosystem full of traps. Want to escape? Be prepared to lose all your data and that fake sense of convenience. Apple knows you fear change, and they exploit that fear to squeeze out every single penny. Remember the Mac Pro wheels for $700? Only a madman would buy those. 4 steel wheels with no locks ready to slide off the desk, just like your self-esteem. That's not selling, it is a public insult to the intelligence of every single consumer. And this is only the beginning of a disaster series called the Apple Arrogance. Step into the wizard's boardroom, where pure greed is magically transformed into class. Big bosses sit around a round table plotting how to make you buy new cables every single year. Hey, let's make this cable as fragile as a thin noodle after just a few months of use. So millions of white cables began to peel, exposing copper bones like a pile of rotting trash. But instead of fixing it, they sell you a braided cable for double the price. Truly geniuses. The peak of conservatism was the butterfly keyboard, a humiliating technical disaster for all. Just one tiny speck of dust falls in, and your $3,000 computer becomes a literal brick. Apple knew it, but they kept selling it for years to squeeze every penny from the naive. Remember the iPhone 4 antenna gate? You are just holding the phone the wrong way, you idiot. A contemptuous answer from those who consider themselves the center of this entire universe. They rushed the launch, forcing engineers to cram unfinished junk into their premium products. Just launch it. If it breaks, we will make the users suffer or pay us more to fix it. The Magic Mouse charging port on the bottom, an incredibly stupid design beyond belief. You have to flip the mouse over like a stranded turtle just to charge it, so sophisticated. Apple calls it minimalism, but the rest of the world calls it lazy design thinking. Every internal screw is uniquely made so that no one can ever touch it themselves. Right to repair. Forget it, Apple wants you to crawl to the Genius Bar to get robbed. They lock the hardware, they lock the software, they lock your freedom of choice too. Their labs do not just create products, they create high-tech digital change for your soul. And as these mistakes pile up, a PR disaster is just waiting to explode in their faces. And then the time bomb called Batterygate officially exploded right in Apple's greedy face. They intentionally slowed down old iPhones via software to force you into buying new ones. A despicable act of stabbing customers in the back, all in the name of battery life. The world was shocked, trust was shredded like scrap paper by the Empire's utter treachery. A wave of class action lawsuits erupted. Lawyers began smelling the giant's blood from afar. Apple had to face compensation bills totaling hundreds of millions of United States dollars. But to them it was just pocket change, a small price to pay for successful mass deception. The media mocked them, sarcastic ads appeared everywhere across all social media platforms. Die-hard fans started feeling humiliated when their friends called them complete and total fools. The Batterygate disaster landed another heavy steel punch to their massive bloated ego. Expensive iPhones bent like cheap plastic scraps inside the pockets of frustrated users. Apple responded with cold silence or by blaming the customer's own physical habits. You should not sit down with your phone in your pocket. Truly a genius piece of advice. Anger turned into a tsunami threatening to wash away the glitz of Apple stores everywhere. Revenue began to stagnate. The numbers were no longer as beautiful as a perfect dream. Shareholders began to tremble. They screamed for a solution to save the dire situation. For the first time in history, the empire felt the burning heat of collapsing trust. But instead of true remorse, they prepared for a brand new act of apology theater. A cheap theatrical performance to deceive the public and continue the shameful shearing cycle. Welcome to the next phase, the humiliating solutions of the truly arrogant ones. When the fox's tail was exposed, Apple began acting in the We Care drama. They launched a cheap battery replacement program as a humiliating charity for users. You had to wait in endless lines just to receive pity from those Apple genies. A long apology letter was posted, but it reeked of a lawyer's cold pre-written template. They didn't apologize for lying to you. They only apologized because they got caught red-handed. To appease the public, they promised more transparency about battery health in future updates. Transparency, that is just their way of reminding you daily. Your phone is trash, buy a new one. Then came the self-service repair program, another top-tier scam aimed at your curiosity. They sent you a tool suitcase, weighing dozens of kilograms just to replace one tiny battery. The cost of renting those tools is almost equal to paying a pro. What an insult to intelligence! Apple wanted to prove you are too stupid to fix it yourself. Just give us your money. Awkward TV interviews with big bosses only made everything much worse than before. They used grand complex terminology to cover up the corporation's sheer cowardice and greed. But numbers don't lie. Millions of people have started to turn their backs on the Apple logo. To save it, they released new colors, as if repainting a rotting corpse would make it smell sweet. Look at dreamy purple iPhone, and the crowd was once again subjected to collective brainwashing. Apple's humility always comes with a brand new sophisticated and sweet financial trap. They give you free iCloud storage for a few months, only to force you to pay forever after. That's not problem solving, it's how they breed a generation of loyal paying debtors. An empire that never admits fault, they only find ways to make that fault even more expensive. Let's talk about iPhone 15, the peak of laziness wrapped in a flashy titanium shell. They advertise it as a space-age material, super strong, super light, and super fragile. Just one light bend, and your super tough back glass shatters like a cheap cracker. Apple stayed silent. They were busy counting money from those overpriced Apple Care plans. But the most humiliating moment was the arrival of the legendary USB-C charging port. After 10 years of stubbornly keeping the trashy Lightning port to collect MFI royalty fees, the European Union dealt a fatal blow, forcing the giant to kneel and surrender completely. We are bringing you USB-C to iPhone for your convenience. What a shameless, blatant lie. The reality is they were forced unless they wanted to be banned from the world's richest market. But Apple is still Apple. They throttled the charging speeds of cables that are not theirs. A level of pettiness and meanness that makes other tech giants tip their hats in disbelief. They keep selling braided cables for 5 times the market price, all in the name of quality. This arrogance has turned into a chronic disease, eating into the very marrow of the empire. Media began dissecting the lack of innovation as iPhone 16 launched just to move a camera. Amazing right vertical cameras, and iFans scream like they have just seen God. How pitiful for those souls imprisoned in the glass cage of fake artificial glamour. Every year you tithe a month's salary to Tim Cook just to feel trendy and cool. But the truth is you are fattening a monster that will never ever satisfy its greed. A monster ready to suck the very last drop of blood from its most loyal customers. Welcome to the finale, where we look back at the scars Apple has left on the world. Look back, that bitten Apple logo, now looks more like a symbol of pure extortion. Billions of dollars in profit built on hollow promises and thousands of broken cables. Apple succeeded in turning customers into proud, voluntary, and lifelong debtors. A humiliating success where creativity died, giving way to sophisticated, blood-sucking tricks. You think you own the iPhone. No, Apple is the one who truly owns your life. They control what you see, what you use, and exactly how you must spend your money. Every software update is a reminder that your current device is slowly becoming utterly useless. What's the lesson here? Never give absolute trust to a corporation that only worships money. Apple's arrogance is a stern warning to any empire that dares to disregard its users. When the glitz fades away, all that remains is a pile of expensive, soulless e-waste. Don't let glossy marketing terms blind you to the harsh reality of this systematic exhaustion. You are not a user. You are just a number in their quarterly financial reports. Monopoly and conservatism will sooner or later lead to a painful fall just like their predecessors. Be awake before you spend another $1,000 on just one new camera button. The tech world is changing, and the lazy ones will be left behind like common trash. These historical scars will serve as a reminder of an era when we were led by our noses. Every empire eventually rots, and Apple is certainly no exception to that universal law. Thank you for joining me in dissecting the flashy, rotting corpse of the Valley Giant. Don't forget to subscribe to Empire Decay to witness many more humiliating falls in history. Protect your wallet before Tim Cook finds a way to take the very pocket itself.